People that come to us are often overwhelmed. They're simply a billing clerk, they are a frontline worker, they are a quality control person, they're a mortgage underwriter, they are one of 1,000 employees, one of 10,000 employees, one of 50,000 employees, and they're taking on some of the largest corporations in the United States. Last year, the Justice Department recovered over $6 billion because of whistleblowers. And the whistleblowers received over $435 million in award money. For those that are brave enough to come forward, there's usually a very good payday at the end of the case. One of the first questions that people ask is, do I need a whistleblower lawyer? Or sometimes they ask, what is a whistleblower lawyer? What do you do? How can you help me? And if you look at the statistics, there are literally thousands and thousands of whistleblowers, people that come forward to report misconduct in their place of work or someone ripping off the government. Very few of those people ever obtain an award. The only way you can get an award is by filing a lawsuit under the Federal False Claims Act. To do that, you need a lawyer, and that's where we help people get their information out, put an end to the fraud, and hopefully put some money in their pocket for taking the risk and taking the brave first step of coming forward. What do we look for? What do you have to do to qualify for a whistleblower award? There are 4 primary whistleblower reward statutes. The SEC has one. That's for companies that violate securities laws. The IRS has a whistleblower program. That's for people that either fail to report income or don't pay their taxes. There is a very specialized program for people that have information about misconduct in federally insured banks. And finally, there's the biggest of all the whistleblower programs, the Federal False Claims Act, that dates all the way back to Abraham Lincoln and the Civil War. When a person comes into our office and we sit down with them to evaluate whether or not they have a claim, they come in and say, hey, look, I've been telling management for 6 months that what we're doing is wrong and no one listens. And one of the things that we have to do is educate our clients to make sure they understand the risk. When you file a case under the False Claims Act, it's under seal. It means it's secret. No one knows. Even the company that you've named in your lawsuit doesn't know. It remains under seal while the government is investigating. But sooner or later, that investigation will end and the case will become unsealed. So what we tell people is sooner or later, the public and your employer or former employer is going to figure out that you were the whistleblower. Unfortunately, many whistleblowers suffer retaliation. They're ostracized. Sometimes they lose their job. Sometimes they're blacklisted within their industry. It takes a lot of bravery to stand up and say enough is enough. Believe it or not, most people that come to us, money is not their primary motivating factor. Most of them that come to us, their primary motivation is just trying to right a wrong. The money is secondary, but if you have a family to support, if you're potentially risking your career, if you're potentially going to lose your job, it's always good to know what can you expect at the end of the case. Is it worth your effort to file a case under the False Claims Act? So one of the important things we have in any new client interview is, what's the case worth? What are your risks? How much can you expect to recover at the end of the day if the case is successful? In order to qualify for an award, you have to have what's called original source, or what I like to say, inside information. Number 2, does that information pertain to a federally funded program? So, for example, the largest whistleblower case in history, that was our case against Bank of America. There were allegations that Bank of America was engaging in wrongdoing in the residential mortgage field. And of course, most residential mortgages are backed either directly or indirectly by the federal government. Looking in my crystal ball, the next wave of cases are probably the big U.S. drug companies, the big pharma companies that have decided to manufacture a lot of their pharmaceuticals now in developing countries where the quality control standards probably aren't as high as the United States. I think we're going to see a lot more cases with privatization. The prisons in the United States, many of them are now run by private contractors. Prison healthcare is more than 50% run by private contractors. Even embassy security, which once was the sole domain of the U.S. Marine Corps, is now often done by private contractors. That's where I think going forward we'll see the next wave of large whistleblower cases. When you're evaluating lawyers, one of the questions you should ask is, have you had any successes? What kind of successes? What kind of experience do you have? And any lawyer could theoretically learn to do it, but you don't want them learning on your case. You don't want their first case to be your case. There are a lot of lawyers out there that will take a case hoping they can make a few bucks on it. The good lawyers make sure that the clients know absolutely everything that they can expect from the day they decide to file a complaint in federal court to the day that case is over. Although we are a whistleblower law firm, not everyone who comes to us qualifies under the False Claims Act or any of the other whistleblower statutes out there. Other times the government just doesn't have an interest in the case. Maybe it's too small. Maybe the government is overburdened at the time or has other interests they're pursuing. A good litigation firm, a good fraud lawyer will be able to sit down with a client and figure out a way to still obtain a recovery on behalf of the client. If a client is out money and the client has information about the wrongdoing or how the wrongdoing occurred, we can switch gears and bring the fraud recovery action just as easily as we can bring a whistleblower case. And that makes us unique in the legal services world. Most law firms either concentrate in one area or the other, and they're not able to do both. We're able to do both, and do both very well. Unfortunately, the criminals are out there, and they're always trying to figure out a way to game the system and get over on taxpayers. And government auditors can't be every place all the time, so the only thing that stands in the way of fraud is really good people, good employees that finally have enough and just stand up and say, I'm not going to take this anymore, and then they take the step and contact us. We absolutely love what we do. We like to fight fraud. We like to help people put a stop to fraud. The heroes are our clients. They're the ones that are taking the big risk and coming forward and blowing the whistle on fraud or corruption, and we like to help those folks. We like to make sure their story gets told, and we like to make sure that they're paid for their efforts.